In this episode, we meet Dan Braithwaite, customer education leader, CEdMA board member, and now a product builder. We chat about his journey into learning.
Maybe it's just something of looking at football, soccer managers and thinking, oh my God, like these people are cool. I want to do something similar to that.
How he thinks about learning measurement.
So I think when it comes to measurement, yeah, it is a bit of overwhelm, but the practical thing is, what does your company actually care about?
And how AI is helping him build the product he wished he could have had.
This has been something that I guess has been in the back of my mind for a long time, but never really the ability to do it before. And I think this new wave of AI technologies, vibe coding, it's kind of never been really easier to start to create some product.
What I'd like to start with is for you to talk the audience through what you think they should know about you and your journey in learning.
It's been, I suppose, an interesting journey. I think a lot of people I tend to chat with don't have the same natural route into wherever they land. I started, I guess my route to learning came through initially my retail days, which is where I started my career when I was a lot younger. I did enjoy presenting quite a lot during those experiences as a retail manager. Kind of moved into a role with Apple, which really exposed that quite a lot, with a lot of different workshops, a lot of internal training programs I was involved with. And just constantly talking about software and products all the time, which was probably the main catalyst at that point of like, right, really enjoy doing this stuff. Like we kind of need to turn this into a career at some stage, which is what then led me to Mediaocean, and where I've been doing that for almost 10 years now, growing a team, growing our programs and trying to make things as amazing as they can be. So that's kind of what's led me to where I am right now, and perhaps moving on to new products that may be hitting the market soon. Who knows?
Nice. So what was it about learning? As you say, many of us get into it accidentally. I mean, mine was, I put my hand up to volunteer for something that was a training session for people. I had never done a training session before at 19, and go do this training session. Great. What was it about learning that pulled you in and kept you in for the next many years?
I think there's a reaction that you see, particularly when you're doing something live and you're facilitating training. There's the reaction that you get from the audience, and there is a bit of a thing with it. Like it feels really good. It feels really good to impart knowledge onto somebody that they can then take away and use and have some success with. But just to see those aha moments, I used to see them from time to time in retail when we'd be maybe doing a launch of a new thing, and I have to present that to everybody, and everyone's kind of slowly getting it. And it's like, wow, amazing. We're going to go and do some really cool stuff with this. But particularly when you've got like Apple and a suite of comprehensive products, which some can be more complicated than others. And just to see these little moments where people get it and it twigs for them, and you're just like, wow, that's, and you can like physically see it in somebody. And that is quite a buzz if you're an instructor or, with this type of stuff. So I think that was the thing of like that feeling of transferring information to somebody and seeing them ignite off of that moment was really the kicker of like, okay, I need to do this more.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I think it's fun. It's fun standing in front of a bunch of people trying to, as you say, get those aha moments, but also interacting in person as it used to be. A lot, getting to know different people, getting to know their different backgrounds and their challenges. I always enjoyed that, whether it be one person that you're hand-holding through or 700 people at a conference or something. I think you get that same kind of buzz out of it. It's a bit of an adrenaline rush, I guess.
Definitely is. I kind of I sort of mentioned to some people when they talk to me about it, it's a bit like being on stage. It's like it's the same sort of buzz I think the people that do those types of roles feel, of like being in front of people and feeling that. It's it's
making a fool of yourself. That's
Many
what I always
times.
said. I just stand up on stage and make a fool of myself. That's basically what I get paid to do.
And many dad jokes as well along the way.
Many bad dad jokes. Yeah. Many very bad coffees in weird and wonderful locations around the world.
Absolutely.
As part of the experience, I mean, for me, travel was a big part of it as well. Getting to travel around with the in-person learning to every country around the world, pretty much. That was part of the fun as well. Obviously, we're not really in that kind of realm of in-person learning so much these days. And I know you at Mediaocean, you're still doing a lot of virtual instructor-led training. And I think for me, COVID kind of killed off a lot of the in-person training way back when we
Yeah.
figured out there was a different way to do it. How have you negotiated that change from being the person at the front of the room to not being the person at the front of the room anymore? You're now on the other side of a screen, or in your profession today, you're managing,
Yeah.
leading a team of people that are doing that.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause, yeah, COVID was such an interesting time. I think where we were at the time was we were fortunate enough to be maybe slightly ahead of the COVID curve because we'd already started to do a degree of virtual live training sessions already at that point. We launched or we acquired a company at Mediaocean that had a global presence and regions that perhaps wasn't cost effective to go and travel to present an instructor there to deliver training. So we kind of started that towards the, I want to say the tail end of 2018. Around that time, we were starting to use products to deliver virtual instructor-led training, and products that would allow us to be hands-on with the functions as well. So not just using a Teams or a Zoom, as much as those products do obviously have good requirements for different circumstances. When teaching product, we really wanted it to be hands-on. So we inherited a product that we started to use, and so there was a process in that time of being on camera and understanding what that kind of feels like and presenting, and if everyone's on mute, just being a bit awkward for a moment of like, did they get it? Because when you're in a room of people and you can see, you know it and you can get that immediate feedback, but when you can't see them, you just don't know. And then trying to explore how you can make the experience more dynamic and more engaging, not just for them, but for you as well, that you know, and you can start to get some, tells on how it's going and whether people are actually picking things up or not picking things up and whether they are enjoying the experience or not. So I think we had probably a good year and a half or so of kind of figuring things out, but at a obviously much reduced capacity to still what was the go in here, there and everywhere type of face-to-face training. COVID came around. We then did the big switch and never really switched back because it's just obviously so much more cost effective for many, many reasons to do it online. You can train more, you can offer more availability to your customers. It's not so taxing to spend, hours in an airport and then days off site and to only perhaps do a couple of training sessions when really you could have maybe done, a dozen of sessions. So it just never really made sense necessarily to go back to those ways. And just then it was a kind of evolution over time of at times maybe getting things a little bit wrong, which I think you have to do in every aspect is make some mistakes and figure out what works and what doesn't work. We certainly changed platforms, the vendors that we were using for delivery and the ways in which we scheduled and handled the entire thing. It was kind of constant iteration to get to kind of where it is now.
Yeah. So that's kind of the Mediaocean side. For you personally, as a trainer at that point,
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple of skills that you had to add. What other skills were crucial for you to, or different for you to learn? Because obviously it's a very different outcome you're trying to achieve in a different medium. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, you have to get used to silence. I think that's one of the things that comes quite quickly. And, you want everybody with their microphones turned on and talking to you and interacting throughout. You want ideally everyone with their cameras on so you can see that they're there and you've got the faces and you can start to put names to faces and stuff. That doesn't suit everybody in their circumstances. And so it's kind of getting used to that quite quickly is unusual. Starting to, again, if you're in a physical classroom space and you're teaching somebody how to use something and you check on them and you can see that they're moving along with it, that's great. When you're in a virtual setting, if they're not moving along with it, then are they even there? Is what's going on? And so I think having to become comfortable with that and find ways to re-engage people, you don't necessarily want to name call people in training, but sometimes you might want to be like, oh, hey, such and such, how are you getting on? Any technical challenges? Talk to me. We've got a chat panel here in this software we're using. If you want to DM me privately, that's cool. Whatevs. Like try to create an environment where there's that inclusiveness because sometimes some people may fall behind because they're actually maybe a little bit scared of asking the question that they should have asked 10 minutes ago because does that make me look like I don't have a clue about what my job is and who I am and
Yeah.
what's happening? So trying to create that space quite early was something that we certainly noticed as well. I certainly noticed as well is really important of like, talk to me please throughout this
Yeah, I
thing.
mean,
But it
when
is,
you're in a room, you're able to have those coffee conversations as well, and you
exactly.
have those one-to-one direct conversations of, okay, you look like you might have been a bit confused. I might have not explained it well for you.
Yeah,
What can we do to kind of help you on with that? Yeah,
fine.
I found it really hard. I hated it. So I hated
Yeah,
doing VILT anyway, and so I
yeah,
used to do a 3 hour every 2 weeks session that was 50 people on there, and I would literally sit with my feet on the windowsill, not looking at the computer because I've done it so often, just kind of going through the motions, if you like. I never really enjoyed doing that online training at all. That in-person thing was way more interesting for me. The personal stories, the personal anecdotes, and yeah, the faces, because often people just maybe 5 people in a room that are all trying to work at the same time due to COVID. So yeah, it was hard to get the microphones and stuff switched on. And has that kind of guided you're now or you have for a little while been part of the CEdMA organization, which is definitely about bringing more community to our industry of customer education. Maybe you can explain to the listeners who aren't familiar what CEdMA is in a second. But do you see that community side of things is becoming more important today?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was talking to somebody the other day around how I've kind of you get a sense that a lot of stuff is becoming more dehumanized in many aspects of life, and so how do you make things more communicative in other areas where you have the ability to do so? I think joining CEdMA and becoming a big part of that it has been a major driver for me of like, connecting with more and more people and helping them to find the resources and the tools they need to do better work. I think just for information there, CEdMA is a member association that exists to service the customer education community globally. And there's a wealth of resource available on there from research that's been done to webinars that have been conducted. There's conferences that occur. There's a whole community of just some really switched on, super intelligent people that have been there and done that, and also are learning themselves because this is the thing with customer education is you never stop learning. There's always something happening. There's always something new. So it's a really great kind of hub for people to exist in and get the most out of it. And yeah, I think that's the thing with it is connecting with human beings, talking to them, getting their experience, and taking from that what you need to hopefully make everything that you do better. So I really enjoyed being a part of the CEdMA board of directors over the last couple of years, and I think it's a great thing for the industry to have a service like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to say I'm not a member. I do communicate with a lot of members, a lot of the board folks, and I think there's some great voices on there. And anybody that doesn't follow CEdMA and the board members that are there and the community members, then should go find you on LinkedIn, find some of the other members on LinkedIn and get involved in the conversations. I've had some great conversations with some of those folks. They all have valuable insights and many years of experience.
Absolutely.
I can still learn from them as well. So, and
Definitely.
obviously yourself, Dan.
I might be able to share a thing or two, maybe a thing
Yeah,
or two, maybe not that
yeah, a
much more
little.
than that, but who knows?
No, no. And yeah, I'm finding that people want more community events, more in-person stuff. I mean, I work from home on my own, a one man band, single person business, sitting in this room, which probably looks okay on camera, but yeah, it's just a dark room that I sit in and crave that kind of in-person connection. So yeah, we have an event this month, Learning Technologies. So we'll
Yeah,
probably meet up there.
definitely.
I have another event next month, which is a conference, which I haven't been to a conference proper for many, many years, but it's a learning and development conference. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved in that.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I think that's the future is community in-person events to try and bring us back to that human insight. We're all stuck with AI and Zoom and in this case, Riverside right now. One of the biggest challenges, and I recorded a podcast with someone this morning, somebody else's podcast, and one of the things we got talking about was measurement. And I think it's a big thing in the industry today. Obviously, we're trying to get away from these content libraries, and obviously, with your work at Mediaocean, it's not really a content library because you're delivering a different experience every single time you deliver the ILT. For you, how has measurement changed over the years, and how do we measure success in learning generally? How do you think about success and failure from a measurement perspective in your mind?
I think measurement, it can be incredibly overwhelming, and a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people you feel are more advanced than you are, and maybe they are. There are a lot of people out there that are doing some cool stuff with measurement, but when you're just getting started, it does feel incredibly overwhelming. That you're like, okay, I've just got this survey that tells me that people will like me or not, and that's about as much as I've got right now. And it is pretty useful stuff. In fairness, like I say,
Happy sheets.
the good old happy sheets. Yeah, I love calling them happy sheets. Those happy sheets that, they are very useful. Was it a good experience? Because you can then start to go, well, if they actually enjoyed it and they had fun, then you would argue that maybe they learned something along the way, because if they didn't have fun and they didn't enjoy it, they probably switched off a bit, so they're less likely to have taken stuff away. But it is then, kind of then taking it beyond there. I think for me, the biggest thing around measurement is what's important to your company as opposed to what you can potentially measure. I think we've certainly spent some time here trying to figure out, like, how do we do this NRR, or how do we do this one? And I don't really know if we can actually quite correlate it. And you spend a lot of time, because you're seeing others have maybe different programs where there is more kind of a direct link doing this stuff. And then you kind of come back to, well, what are our priorities right now as an organization? How can I link up to those? How can I show that what we're doing makes any kind of difference with those things that are up there? And that might not mean that you go into realms that you maybe want to, because we all want to prove that we're incredibly valuable and we're one of the most important resources that a company has. I would always make that argument that we are, but there is that kind of sense of, like, we've got to prove ourselves, but it's just proving what the company needs you to prove. So sometimes we don't go as far into metrics as maybe others do, but that's because we're trying to achieve these objectives, which are linked to these metrics. So we're just going to look at these. As much as it might be fun to look at those ones over there, we're just going to look at these. We're just going to communicate these. So I think when it comes to measurement, it is a bit of overwhelm, but the practical thing is, what does your company actually care about?
Yeah.
And then what are you doing that impacts that? And then are there some data sets that you can prove along the way? I've even had it to the point where we haven't had data sets. We've just had feedback from customers, and that's been enough.
Yep.
Like, from very key stakeholders at the organizations that we work closely with, that have all said, hey, these programs are great. We really enjoy them. We want more of this. And that in itself can be enough, depending on what your business priorities are. So I think overwhelming, but focus.
Yeah, I think that last point is very, very apt. I think feeling is often underused in business. So that while we can't necessarily prove feeling, there was Simon Sinek. I'm not sure if you listened to any of his podcasts. So he had Will Guidara, who's used to run the world's best restaurant, and his thought of, okay, well, how do we really know that we're making it better? How do we can do get all the data, we can get all the stats, we can get the reviews, but actually it's often a feeling. Do they walk out of the door with a smile on their face? Okay. Have they had an engaging, interesting experience with us? And that's the same for instructor-led training. Often, as you said earlier, is the trainer, the instructor in person is easier, can see that they've had a good experience. They were interactive. They left with a smile on their face. They've used the system again afterwards. And maybe we've given them some kind of inspiration. So hard to measure, but definitely a useful, am I in the right direction kind of scenario.
Definitely. And I think with measurement, if folks are, like, again, that worry of getting started, it's your trained versus untrained. But then there is also the definition of what do you define as trained, which when you're delivering VILT is potentially a little bit easier, because did they attend and did they participate? And if they did, then I would classify that as trained, versus somebody who didn't attend in the first place. And then can you then spike the differences from that? So that's another kind of
Yeah,
Easy way to get
I'm
going,
going to
really.
stay on that theme for a second because, yeah, trained versus untrained. I had a lot of interesting conversations over the years about, are they trained? Are they enabled? Are they
Mm,
certified? So these are all kind of check boxes, but none of them actually mean they learned anything.
no,
So trained, yes, they attended. Did they participate? Maybe. Did they take anything away? We don't know. Are they enabled, or what does enabled mean? Well, they ticked all these boxes. They know how to log in. They know how to click this button. They know how to get some kind of output from there. Does it mean they really understand and they're able to do it themselves next time? Who knows? Yeah, there's nobody ever asked, are they learned? Because learning is the continuous part of it, right? So
exactly.
that's the key is, have they learned anything? Yes. Did they learn enough? Well, depends what their expected outcome was. And so
Absolutely.
again, it's all hypotheses and trying to vaguely link these meaningless, meaningful pieces of information to business metrics as well. So
Yeah,
super hard to do. And
very.
I think hypotheses and making assumptions is also a very good way forward if you can quantify those assumptions with the right people.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, learning can happen in so many different ways, in so many different moments. And maybe you did that training session. They may have come along to it. They may have looked engaged. They may have done really great. They don't use the system then for 4 or 5 weeks, so they've definitely probably forgotten most of it. But they then had to look at something on your help center. Maybe that was the thing that the learning then actually took place. It is so hard to track that, if you could even track it at all. But just
Yep.
having that, they did come, they didn't come, is enough to sort of start to show that there might be some differences with what's happening. But yeah, to then define it further than that is very,
Yep.
very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the CFO wants to see the change to the bottom line. Did we make more money because of it? Did we save money because of it? Maybe. Is that good enough answer? Maybe. Well, they did this, which equals this, which meant maybe this happened earlier, which meant maybe we got some revenue a bit closer to contract time, which maybe means that we did a better job and got more revenue into the company. Can I prove that directly? No.
But I think that comes back to that sentiment piece, doesn't it? Of like, if your customers and the key stakeholders there are speaking really highly to very key people at your organization, and then if you're partnering and working really closely with all of the teams that you need to be, and you're the kind of a consultative team that helps them out with some of the problems that they're facing, then they've got a positive opinion of you. So everyone kind of gets a sense of like, you must be a part of this because you're helping us. That's meaning I'm spending less time talking about these annoying things, and you're helping us launch these new features and functionalities that our customers are adopting. So that's saving us time and effort there. And the customers seem to think that you're really good as well. So there must be some impact here from a bottom line perspective, even if you can't go, this metrics equals this, which equals that, as some kind of algebraic formula that helps you get there.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
And you make a very good point there, is often learning teams and customer education, other learning teams think they operate in a silo. And the biggest success that you can have when you're building learning practice in the business is to get outside the silos, because as you say, there are other people in the business that can guide you on whether you're being successful or not. A customer success team, crucial to be a partner with, because they're going to give you the feedback of, this customer wasn't successful and they didn't attend training, or they attended training but it wasn't right for them. They're having those weekly or monthly conversations, hopefully, if they're not just doing digital customer success. They're actually having real conversations. They're the stakeholders in the business that can help you along the way.
Definitely one of the things that I feel like, we would use the word mistake, but one of the things I feel like I kind of got wrong. It was like almost like one of those COVID hang-ups of like, everyone became isolated through that time period, but found ourselves more isolated as a team and started making more decisions ourselves and doing things that we thought felt good and felt right, but that consultative element had gone. And that's been a big change over the last 2.5-3 years of like, you just can't do this on your own. And if you do, then that then starts to create those negative perceptions internally, even if maybe the customer still might like you. It then creates this weird dynamic of, well, why do they like you? Because we don't really work with you very closely, and did you actually impact them the way we wanted you to impact? And we've got all these objectives that we're trying to achieve, and what are you setting out to do? So it was a very strange period of that isolation, but then teams becoming isolated. And yeah, I'm glad that we're out of that now over the last, I'd say 2-3 years of actually really regular communication, regular meetings. Like every time there's something new, let's get in a virtual room and figure this out together and make this the best thing it can be. And that might take a few meetings, but best to do that than rather go off on your own tangent and try and figure it out yourself. And yeah, I remember one particular situation where we were very excited to launch a new program about a product that or a product feature that was just coming out. Spent a long time developing it, to then find out on day of launch that none of our key customers were actually going to use it until several months down the line, because there was some features that needed to be adapted for them. So yeah, we would have learned that better if we'd have collaborated. So
that sounds familiar. I think in a technical training product world, I think that happens a lot more often than people might think. Yeah, we're building this really cool feature. Okay, it needs training. Who's going to use it? Well, we've got one person that has shown an interest in it. Okay, when are they going to start using it? Well, they haven't signed a contract yet. Okay, contract takes 6 months, so we're not going to do it now. It leads me on to a follow-on. How good are you at saying no to things?
It depends on the thing, and depends on the severity of it and the person. And yeah, I think, I mean, I've had to say no quite a bit. It was a particular period here at Mediaocean. It is that the sort of post-COVID era where we did see a few of our more kind of junior team members decide to move on to new roles at other organizations. So we had to bring some new blood into the team, some fantastic individuals that joined us. And but our products are incredibly, well, can be quite complicated, and it's a complex world where our customers use things differently, have different things switched on and off. There's quite a complexity to it, along with trying to learn. So our products are in the advertising space, so trying to learn the complexities of how the advertising space alone works can be quite daunting for new people. So that was a period of time of having this, really experienced workforce, but then at the same time inexperienced workforce together, and having to say no a lot, because although these people over here could do it, and they can, and they have been for, I've got people that have been here for like 25 plus years, they can very much adapt to, right, we need to be saying these things, we need to do this a bit differently here. This group over here can't, and it's not scalable to have some of your team be able to do something and some of your team not. So there was a period of time where it got used to saying no quite a lot, but no with explanation of like, we can't do that right now. And I would love to do that, but here's the reasons why we can't do that right now. But then there are going to still be those times even within that of like, this is just far too important to say no to. I think on the counterpoint, there's sometimes where you say yes and you regret it as well. I've certainly had moments like that where we probably haven't been ready to do something, and we've said yes, or I've said yes, and then we're like, yeah, no, we definitely weren't ready for that, and it can cause problems. Like, so yeah, I think it's experience. It's like knowing what your team is capable of doing, knowing in your mind what the product is that you want to put out, or at least the sort of, not the exact product, but like the philosophy of the product. Like, this is the things that we really don't want to be. So things like, we want to make sure it's all hands on. We want to make sure we're giving people time to explore the products. All these kind of things that, maybe philosophical is the wrong word, but like these principles that we're going to have the principles, but the design may be different. We may have to concede in certain things because it's the right thing to do for us, the company, and also for the customers. So you just, I guess, learn that over time of what works and what doesn't work. I think one thing that we do stamp our ground, kind of fork into the ground on a lot of these days is new users versus existing users. And quite often we will have an experience where maybe there's a new workflow that they're going to use in the software, so there's going to be new ways of doing things, and there's always that kind of, we want to get this done as quickly as possible, and the quickest way is to chuck everyone in a Zoom with no participant limit and just hit them with the knowledge, which may work for those that have used the software and kind of, they've got all of that pre-existing knowledge, and they've got the knowledge of their jobs and what they're supposed to be doing. you could probably do that with them because they'll just go, okay, yeah, I've got to click a few different buttons. I know what those buttons are. I know where they are. You've just shown me. That's fine. But if you've got a new user, they don't know what the old workflow was. They frankly don't care, probably because they've just started. So they still need to go through those processes. So, I think that's been something that we definitely foot down on. Like these are separate people and they need a separate experience. And you do get that kind of push and shove quite a lot of like, well, we just want to get them through as quickly as possible. But as long as you've got the capability within your team and, the ability to meet the demands, then that kind of counters it quite nicely. So lots of situations.
I think context is key there, isn't it? Making sure that there's the right context for the right user at the right time.
Right.
So, but the yes and no thing, I think, is one of the big things that I had to learn moving from individual contributor, where I would always say yes because somebody would be saying, "Can you do this?" And I go, "Yeah, that's fine." And then becoming a leader and somebody that has to take more responsibility for the outcomes that are being generated. You need to learn very quickly that no is also an acceptable answer in the right circumstances. So the no and or yes and or yes but, I think are very important skills to learn.
Very much so.
So you spent quite a long time as an individual contributor, and now you've been a leader for a while, quite some years. What skills had to change for you to make that leap? Were there any times where you didn't have the right skills in place to deal with situations?
Yeah, I think for me, because like I had leadership experience prior to Mediaocean, and I think that was kind of what helped a lot because that was back in my retail days. I started managing small retail stores from the age of 20, and I always had it. I know I can't pinpoint at the moment, but certainly at the age of 19, I was like, I really want to be a manager. This seems really cool. Like I can't really figure out exactly why that happened.
Money. At 19, probably was the cash. Bigger pay packet.
Maybe it was to do with that and the absolutely terrible Peugeot 306 I was driving around in at the time. Maybe something to do with that. Maybe it's just something of looking at football, soccer managers and thinking, oh my God, like these people are cool. I want to do something similar to that. But
definitely not soccer managers, football managers. You were right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just in case the podcast is global, we've got to make sure that we're helping everyone out. Yeah. That's a separate podcast that we need to get onto, isn't it? Of that, but yeah, I think having that young, and I've really enjoyed helping people become better at their jobs, and that also then helping them either themselves make more money, get promoted, or go into new roles in other companies and kind of mentor still. I really enjoyed that. I think that was the two biggest things I learned from that to now leading at Mediaocean. It's just like, slow down. It's all good. It's that when you're younger, or at least for me, I don't want to say to everybody, but for me, when I was younger, I was very like, I want to win, and I want to win quickly, and I want to grow fast. I want to manage the big flagship store tomorrow, if possible. And so I ran successful stores. There's certainly no doubt about that. But there was always just maybe a slight chip on the shoulder of like, I want bigger. I'm proving myself. I want this, and just slow down, take time. It's cool. Like, what are you learning through this? What's actually happening? What is working and not working? And so when you then hit a situation where it suddenly doesn't work, what do you have available to you? You can then go, right, I know this will work, and I know this will work, and I can turn this around. Just maybe not developing the tool set so much through that process, because it was almost like that, again, it's like win now and grow as fast as possible. So that was a big thing. And probably came with maturity, probably came with having being outnumbered by children in the house, probably a few things that kind of made that change. I think as well, then, like working at Apple for a few years, although I was only there for like 4 years, that was the introduction to people like Simon Sinek. That was the introduction to frameworks and different ways of handling different situations. So if this happens, if a customer yells in your face, these are the steps to carry out. And this is a framework that is actually really good. And you'll find that many an Apple employee or former Apple employee that still uses those things pretty much every single day. There's certain frameworks, I won't get into them, but there's just you just use them naturally, and probably other people just use them naturally anyway. But you learn that kind of getting really a real understanding of what maybe what did work. Why did I have some success before? I don't really understand how I did. I was just driving really hard. And then I think managing upwards probably is another huge one. Certainly, again, when you're moving from management to then moving into director and moving through that. Again, I think because when I was younger, I had that bit of a chip on my shoulder. Was a bit of I got on well with my peers and my managers because they were really great people that worked really hard as well. Maybe because there was that like, hey, I want more kind of thing. That there was always something that was slightly off that was there. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate with the leaders I've had at Mediaocean. That yeah, they've been fantastic people to work with. Really helped me be able to try things out and experiment and explore. And you know, back to that yes and no thing. There's not been too many no's over the years of like, well, don't go in that direction. That looks a bit too scary. There's a bit been like, hey, let's just go and see what happens, and that enablement of being able to do it, and that kind of coaching and mentorship and the collaboration that you get has been fantastic. So it's been a lot easier to kind of quote unquote manage upwards because it's just been very very natural, very organic. But I think there was also that maturity of I don't need to be the head of VP of tomorrow. There's a journey that I need to
Yeah.
go on here, and I'm happy to take that journey and happy to take the time to learn new things along the way about myself and about the business. And when I get there, I get there. That's
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I think when you're 19, 20, you think, yeah, it's you got to hustle to get promoted. But as you get older, you realize that if you do a good job, you have the right work ethic, then the promotions will come if
exactly.
you care about job titles. In fact, probably I'm not sure if it's the same with you. For me, director was, wow, this is really cool. And then the next promotion was just another job title. I don't really care. And I wasn't pushing for it. It was like, well, we're going to give you a senior director. Okay, great, thanks. What does that mean? My job's the same. It makes a difference. Maybe there's a little bump in salary, but job titles become less meaningful. I think the further along in your career, for me anyway, I think maybe there's some
Yeah,
people that always want to be a CEO.
yeah, and I think with the other thing you kind of learn over the years as well, and I think maybe it's that move from individual contributor to leader is that reassurance piece and that tell me I'm doing a good job, please. Especially again for me when I was younger, of like, hey, look, I'm doing great things, please praise me and praise the team. And as you get older, you get used to. I mean, that's just not sustainable in any kind of business that you have to constantly have this reassurance. And you grow, you mature, you're able to go, I know I'm doing a decent job here. My boss might tell me once in a while I'm doing a good job, and it feels really good when that happens. But like I know in myself, like I can see what's going on. I can hear what's going on. You can become comfortable with that, and I think certainly again like that move from manager to director is quite a significant move. But that becomes even more of like, okay, I need to be very okay with feeling okay about what we're doing, and yeah, that's a big maturity piece that takes place.
Yeah, I definitely went through those scenarios, but then came out the other side and got to the point where I had to go. I was told, well, you don't push your successes enough. I was like,
Mm.
okay, yeah, you have to go back into, well, actually, you do still need to market yourself and your successes and what your outcomes are, because otherwise the business is looking at you as are they actually doing anything? So yeah, it's easy to go too far the other way, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You get so used to the team's amazing. This is and they are they are great and
Yeah,
they do a fantastic job, and you do forget that like, hey, what have I done, and what's my contribution to this, because I've contributed a whole vision and purpose behind this that
yeah,
has caused this to happen. Yeah, that self-promotion piece, and maybe it's I don't know if it's a British thing as well. We're not particularly good at talking about ourselves,
no,
or selling ourselves in the best of ways. We all do fantastic work, but it's just like it feels a bit weird
yeah.
to sort of, hey, I'm good at what I do. You just feel like maybe you're putting yourself out there and people go, yeah, ego.
Yes, indeed. Yes, but now I'm going to put you on the spot because now you're starting to or have to start thinking in a way of putting yourself out there, right? So uh, there is
Yes.
a new part of your journey that's been ongoing for the last few months, I guess, maybe longer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so starting up a new company, a new product called LiveFox. This has been something that I guess has been in the back of my mind for a long time, a really long time, but never really the ability to do it before. And I think this new wave of AI technologies, vibe coding, it's kind of never been really easier to start to create some product. So it was something that was always on my mind. I essentially LiveFox is a quiz and live Q&A platform. So if you've ever used softwares like that, where you can have a gamified experience at the end of a training session where people can take a quiz and there's leaderboards, there's emojis, there's fun. This is what LiveFox can do. But it can also not do that as well. So if you have experience where perhaps the audience doesn't want that kind of shiny fun, because it's not the kind of fun that they enjoy, then you can turn all of that off and just have a simple, like, do they know the answer or do they not know the answer, and work your way through that. And yeah, this is kind of born out of experiences with these platforms over the years. Like, really enjoy using them. I think they really offer a lot to these, especially a virtual instructor led session as well, where again, it is a very different experience and you are really trying to maximize every moment and make every moment feel engaging. But yeah, you do want to be able to assess whether there's some level of knowledge that's been transferred, even if they've done the thing. Can they remember why they done the thing and how they did the thing? But whenever I've used products like that, you get one or the other. You get one flavor or the other flavor. You get either super fun, confetti, splash in your face, music going pumping, and it's oh yeah. Or you get the other aspect, which is just really kind of black and white. We're going to work our way through the Q&A here, and then we're out. And I just think sometimes you just don't know either. Like, and this is one of the things that's one of the features of LiveFox is not only do you have the ability to switch that on and off at a kind of overall settings level, but even at an individual quiz level, or even the moment that you launch, because sometimes you're like, hey, this crowd, maybe I didn't understand this audience very well. And as I'm now going through this, I'm like, I just don't think leaderboards and emojis are for them. Let's switch that off just as I launch, because I think this is going to be actually going to create a more negative impact. Or even the opposite. You're like, I'm going to be dealing with this type of audience. I've always associated them with, bow ties and suits and all this kind of stuff, and then you're working your way through, and you're like, this is really fun. This is amazing. I actually think if I switch this on, this is going to have an even more bigger impact. So I think this is it. And so yeah, kind of later time of last year, I thought let's start to try and build something and let's see how this works. And yeah, learned a lot about how products work.
I was going to say, what have you learned that you didn't know about before from a product perspective or a business perspective? What's your biggest takeaways from the process?
You have a much greater appreciation for product teams. It's fair to say. I mean, I always had an appreciation for product teams. I want that on the record. But but it's incredible how you're like, right, I need to change this setting. I'm going to change this setting over here. I'm going to adjust this, and then you go to test and you go, okay, that all works, but now I seem to have broke that thing over there, and I can't figure out how these two things are connected, and now I've got to go and do that, and now I've got to decouple it. Now I've got to figure all this out. It's just surprising when you haven't kind of done that stuff before, as to how easy something can impact something else, and they're trying to take a time to build things in ways that maybe that doesn't happen. Certainly, it was a experience back in January where I thought, this is moving along nicely, and I can't remember what exactly it was I did, but the core functionality of the product just completely stopped working, and that was a weekend of like, okay, what did I do? How do I undo it? But also, what the heck? Like, how did that happen? So that's been a really big thing. I think the next biggest learn is and it comes back to the whole, like, selling yourself kind of thing, and selling something, is that, yeah, it's going to be a new experience of, like, younger in my career, I was selling products. That was my retail journey, of selling products to people. This feels very much more that the product is from me. It's more like selling myself, which is something that is a little bit more uncomfortable to do. And, yeah, and maybe people will go like, oh, but you've been on things, you've done webinars, you've done talks. It's like, but I'm still talking about things that have happened, like work that has taken place. I'm not going like, and this is a bit more like,
yeah. You got to give them a vision of what it will do for them.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very new thing, and I've got to become very comfortable, I think, very quickly at that. And but I do feel very passionately about this. This was sort of started as a bit of a, can I do this? And then as it kind of evolved, it was a bit like, this actually works. It works pretty well. I think this is really valuable because my experiences have led me to this today of like, I'm building this because of that, of wanting something that's deeper. I wanting better analytics, like wanting to be able to do A/B testing. I feel like that's such a simple thing of like, let's do a quiz at the end of the session, and hey, you do that quiz and I'll do this one, and we'll see who scores better. And maybe we can, maybe we're wording questions wrong here, or maybe we haven't covered the right content, and we can figure it out. And not really having those options, not having the analytics to kind of tell these things of what's working, what's not working. I think there's lots of stuff like that. And then pricing, which I think, hey, look, I'll say it today, and maybe in a few years' time it might be different. So this maybe not the bit to clip out, but I want a simplistic pricing model, because it's so frustrating when you're like, okay, I'm on this plan, so I'm adding now 2 users. So if I add that and I carry the 1, that means that I'm now paying this, which actually like now costs more than my LMS. Okay, right, gotcha. That paying more for a quiz platform than an LMS makes sense. Cool. And that's, I think it feels far too complex. I'm just like, look, here's the model. It's a pricing scale by user. You get everything. Yeah. You just get everything. Like, I don't want to mess about. Like, here it is.
For me, that's a very wise move. Having been a purchaser many times, trying to work out, okay, how did they get to that price based on my number of users, based on what I need, based on one of the content authoring tools we needed. And so we had licenses for authors, and then we said, well, we need to add some reviewers. Okay, so they're not going to author anything. They just literally need to put comments on things. Oh yeah, you need a full license for each of those. Yeah. So we just doubled the price. We had 6 licenses, 6,000 a year, whatever it was, £6,000. We now need to double that just to get 6 people in reviewing stuff. And I can't use shared logins.
No, well, this is it. I mean, if I was to do a cheeky plug there, I mean, we'd around LiveFox, which feels like that's going to be my life now, making sure I can get these plugs in and feel comfortable doing them. But moderators are unlimited, and so like one of the functionalities is the ability to do Q&A sessions. So when you go to these amazing conferences and there's large crowds, there are products obviously that exist that can take all your questions and relay them up there. But as a facilitator, it's probably quite difficult to start to manage that whilst you're doing the talk. Having a moderator that could do that for you and to tee up all the questions for you, they just moderate. Like they're just there to support, and they do a fantastic job. But why are we paying for them to have access to the system when they're just going to click launch and then help do that? So yeah, that's another thing that's like, they're not paying for them. That's not
very cool. Yeah. I think I'm seeing more of the simplistic pricing around Parter.
Yes.
I think you're familiar with it, and their pricing model is super easy to understand. I'm not going to get into the details, but you can go on their page and go, oh, that's how much it's going to cost me. Okay, great. Thrive is another one. They have a calculator on their site. How many users have you got in your business? Like that's what your price will be. So you can see it very clearly. Particularly on the learning management system side, we know it depends who you talk to, what day of the month it is, where in the quarter it is, what their quota is for the salesperson, and then maybe there's a deal to be done after that. So easy to understand pricing is the right way to go from a purchaser's procurement perspective for me. So very cool. Definitely. So you can keep plugging. So how can people find out more about LiveFox?
Yeah, they can go to the website, probably the best place. That's golivefox.com. Has been updated this week, so I have recorded a couple of pretty scrappy YouTube videos, it's fair to say. So those are now on the homepage. You can see how I created a quiz using AI. So AI is in there. I mean, I feel like you don't even plug that anymore in 2026, right? Like it's like it has AI.
You don't have an AI powered badge on there?
No, there's none of that on there. I think it's it's just a given. Like, I think for me these days. But I created a quiz on Radiohead's Discography, which is a band that I very much adore. For anyone that doesn't want to watch the video, spoiler, I do get a question wrong, and I will say after the recording, beat myself up pretty heavily about it. I was like, God, you should have known that one. That sucks.
You're supposed to say, "Oh, I did it on purpose," just to show that what
Yeah,
the
look,
wrong answer use case would look like.
for people that listen to the podcast, they now know the truth. For those that don't listen to it, you'll be like, he's done that really well in that video. He's deliberately got that question wrong to show us that the streak has been broken and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so there's a couple of videos on there. There's one of that. There's also one of how the Q&A session feature works. So yeah, hopefully people get a feel for it. Again, completely transparent. It's there. You can see how the product works in action. There is free trials available. So perhaps on the distribution of this podcast, we can come up with a cool promo code and people can get an extended trial. Very happy to let people have a little bit longer in the software to get a real feel for it. So we'll come up with something that we can do on launch there and have a play around with it. See what it's like. See what you like, what you don't like. Tell me as well. Come and find me on LinkedIn, or you can actually communicate to me through the platform as well. You can send me feedback as well. But hey, what did you like? What didn't you like? That's really, really useful information. And I think that's something as part of this process over the last few months of getting some, fantastic people in there to have a play around and be like, hey, maybe this bit doesn't work as great as I'd like it to, or this UI doesn't make as much sense as I'd like it to. That's the only way you grow a product is by making it work for the people that are going to be using it. So I think that's all about the next stage of this is, can we get more people in there, more people playing around with it? Eventually, hopefully people paying for it. That is the core of any new business idea. But it's a product that I want to exist for people that use it. And if they're like, hey, we really like to see. So, for example, I kind of recently deployed an on-demand feature for quizzes. I kind of technically call this in beta right now. It works, it functions, it does what it needs to do. But I'm sure there's going to be feedback there of like, hey, have you considered doing branching and stuff like that? And it's like, yeah, look, I've got a whole list of things that I feel would be good, but if you like that, let's move that up the list and let's see if we can work on that sooner. And so lots of growth still to come.
Product mindset.
Yeah, I think this is it. And again, there's been an experience over this last few months of you're feeling passionate about something, but then like you're giving it to the world, and then I say responsibility, but you're responsible, but you want everyone to tell you. It becomes again a little bit selfless in a way, which probably is something that feeds through my career a little bit of being like moving into more senior leadership becomes very much more selfless. Like the work that I do at CEdMA, which is, helping people grow and develop is, it's a volunteer work. It's pretty selfless from that perspective. And, I think that's the thing of like, you can feel good about those things, morally feel pretty good about those things. So yeah, continuing that philosophy with this.
Very cool. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough to be in the platform, have a play around myself, give some feedback to you along the way. And yeah, I love it. I think it's a great product that fits a nice gap in the market. So I wish you all success on that, and I will continue to test it out for you as you need me to.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we're almost at the end. I have a couple of quickfire questions for you. So just something I do at the end of all my podcasts, very simple. Book, podcast, recommendation, something that's had a long-lasting impact on you. What would you recommend people go and read or listen to if they're wanting to get deeper into the world of learning?
I'll give you one on learning, and then I'll give you just one more broadly. So Julia Dirkson's Design for How People Learn book. I'm not a big book reader at all. I really struggle to pick up a book and read. I find I've got to really get myself motivated for it.
Not read any of them.
This is it.
These ones, yeah.
They look great on a shelf.
They look great behind me.
And every now and again, you have got to dust them off because they do get quite dusty if you don't actually use them. It is the only book I've ever read twice. So that's one that I've used a couple of times in my career, and I really highly recommend it. So I would.
She was at CEdMA, wasn't she?
She was, and she did a really great talk on kind of really talking about the concept that she has around the elephant and the rider, and she has a book that came out recently around Talk with the Elephant, which I'm starting to slowly make my way through, but a really interesting idea about how you may know that the thing that you're learning about is the right thing to learn about, but actually motivations and that side of things, and the moment of need and all of that aspect. It's very, very interesting, and I think very applicable to L&D, to customer education around if somebody doesn't need to know the thing in the moment. It's a pretty hard task to transfer information to them, and probably almost an impossible task. So really interesting books. Outside of that, we've already mentioned Simon Sinek. I am a huge Simon Sinek fan. The Infinite Game is something that is kind of, again, more of a philosophy, but that need of constant improvement, of not feeling like you've reached the end. And, that's okay. The goal is to make this thing better. We have made this thing better. End game. Let's move on with our lives. It's like, no, it's a constant thing. And I know in customer education, we feel that a lot because everything moves very quickly, and AI is now moving very quickly. We're now learning how to do things to help with that. So I think just having that mindset of it's infinite, and I think it's like you don't go from point A to point B. It's just a constant.
You can't win customer education, right?
No, you can't. I wish you could.
Nobody wins customer education. Nobody wins sales.
You just play the game
long term. Yeah.
And It's a long game. Yeah. So
there's always another target.
Exactly. So I think that's a really good, particularly for moving into, if you're not a leader, but moving into leadership, a really important book to really get that different kind of mindset on how things work.
Nice. One last question then. What do you think the future of customer education might look like? In a few words, not in 10 minutes, but in 60 seconds, maybe.
In 60 seconds, pure context, absolute unadulterated context. Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's the way AI is going, agents and everything. Potentially more and more software is going to become more and more automated. We've been able to task something to do the thing for you in the platform. Knowing exactly what you need to achieve and why you need to achieve it has never been more important. And I think it's been something that has been a journey in customer education from a few years ago of, we're not product education, we're customer education. This is a very different understanding of things. I think that has never been more important right now, of like, why are they doing the thing that they're trying to do? What are they trying to achieve? And then that will then inform how they do the thing. The doing of the thing is starting to become less of a thing. I'm using the word thing a lot, but hopefully we get it.
Yeah. It relates to everything then. Everything. Yeah. But I think you could probably take that pure context and push it across multiple realms in the business world and the personal world now. Yeah, AI is changing everything, and prompt engineering is dead. Context engineering is the new prompt engineering. And so, context is key for everything that we want to learn, everything we want to do, or everything that we want to achieve as business or in business. So cool. Dan, thank you very much. I will make sure that there's a link to LiveFox in the description for the podcast and the video when it goes on YouTube. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you haven't had too many bashes on the door from the kids along the way.
It's been surprisingly quiet, which is almost more worrying.
Well, best of luck following this podcast then. But thank you very much for your time, and we will chat again in the future.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.